Hi everyone, Scott Pyre Pop Cult fan here, and a few nights ago I watched episode 3 Revenge of the Sith in theaters with my buddy Sean, aka Cash Vault, and I want to talk about the movie. I did do a review of the movie like in the early days of my channel many years ago at this point now, and I think in some ways this movie still holds up 20 years later. I think in some ways there are some things about it in which I would say that, not everything in the film is perfect by any means, but it's still a movie that I very much enjoyed nonetheless. In this day and age, the movie is very memorable for a lot of people my age. It's easily the best film in the prequel trilogy, and some might say that's better than some of the original films in the original trilogy. While I do agree with that to some degree because of my nostalgia that I have for the movie, I still think that the original, Empire Strikes Back and New Hope are still superior films to me, but Revenge of the Sith is a movie that you can kind of look at it and go, that's very quotable. That's very memeable. There's a lot of moments in Revenge of the Sith that are very memeable nowadays and also very quotable. And it is a fun movie. This is where the fun begins. It's funny because my friend Sean was actually dressing up as Anakin when we saw the movie. Like in a full costume and all that, and it was just really a fun experience. I'm glad that I got to see it in theaters because I never got a chance to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters 20 years ago, back in 2005. I never got a chance to see it in theaters, and it was a great experience. I'm glad that we were in a theater where it wasn't too packed, and people were, polite. No one was like loud or anything, except for me and Sean a little bit to a degree. But we were quiet. We were quiet enough. But it was a great theater experience, and I think like I said, it does hold up to a degree, but at the same time, there are still moments of bad dialogue in this film. So not all of the bad dialogue or bad written dialogue from Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. There's still a little bit of that in this one as well. But this was the story that George Lucas wanted to tell when making this one, and we finally got to that point. We finally got to the point where Anakin, becomes Darth Vader by the end of this film, and I think easily, like, it's a very laughable moment by the very end. That big no moment by Darth Vader, it's that ruins the moment, doesn't it? At the end of it, but it's kind of a charm. It's kind of charming though in a way, and I kind of like that about it. And also just a lot of, like I said, memeable moments, especially with that final battle sequence between Anakin and Obi-Wan. I have the high ground and that kind of stuff. It's just, and also Obi-Wan's iconic "Hello there." So many moments that are just kind of cheesy nowadays that don't quite hold up and wouldn't make it into a modern Star Wars film now, but it has that charm to it, and because of that, I think it does hold up for the most part. And also, like, the visuals are so much better in this film compared to Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. That battle sequence at the very beginning of the film, in which you're seeing all these ships, and it's so much laser fire every which way, and it looks so great. And you're by this point you enjoy the presence with Anakin and Obi-Wan, and even R2. R2 has some great moments in this film, and it's all just a very fun film that, it has its moments where it does slow down a couple moments, and especially in that one scene where it's mirroring between Padme and Anakin, and they're like in different rooms in different locations in the city in Coruscant, and when you have a moment like that and there's no dialogue at all. That's where this movie shines. When there's moments when there isn't any dialogue, and you get that kind of music to back up the scene, and it's a very chilling moment. And also another very chilling moment, and easily one of the best scenes in the entire franchise, if you ask me. There's a couple of them. There's the execute Order 66 scene, that is a very chilling and very tragic moment that really defined like this era of Star Wars in so many ways. And also the iconic monologue from Emperor Palpatine about Darth Plagueis, and how chilling that particular monologue is from Palpatine, and how he uses that to manipulate Anakin. And it's just so compelling. It's so compelling. And I think because of those moments, because of the very chilling and really kind of surprisingly dark moments, even at the very end of the movie when Anakin has his limbs cut off and he's being burnt alive. This movie, it kind of, it was at that time in my life where I was like 10 years old, back in 2005, and I was starting to see movies that were a little bit more darker and more mature. Revenge of the Sith was one of the first movies that I saw that was starting to get into that direction, as I was getting older in those years, and Revenge of the Sith was one of the first movies in which I started to see more mature, kind of darker undertones in my movies that I was watching at the time. And I love the movie for that. And even Prisoner of Azkaban, Harry Potter, that was another one that helped with that. And this is a movie I love. I love this movie, but I acknowledge its faults. Even now as an adult, there are things about it that I do think hold it back completely for me. But it's still a movie that I love. It's still one of my favorite Star Wars films, and it still holds up 20 years later. So these are my updated thoughts on Revenge of the Sith. Like I said, I did do a review of the movie quite a while back here on my channel, in my early days of my channel. So those are all my thoughts about Revenge of the Sith. And also Andor is currently airing, and hopefully that show will help with getting a little bit more exciting as we get more episodes. We'll see how that goes. But yes, those are all my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.